Hello, hello. Michelle Lee here with the Sophia Mystery School. I am a spiritual mentor and advisor to powerful women leaders, CEOs, and attorneys and entrepreneurs. And I'm jumping in here today to talk about it's just a story. In working with my clients and using the modality emotional freedom technique, I always did a turnaround that would bring so much joy to everyone, no matter how deep their pain was that we were working on with emotional freedom technique. I would turn it around by saying, but maybe this is just a story. And most of the times their face would light up and it gives a freedom. And so I invite you to look at the reality, the stories that you're telling yourself, and remember that it's all just a story. I remember years and years ago, early in my business, when I was doing some EFT with a client, and I had done an Akashic record reading for her, and my Akashic record readings are, in-depth 8 to 11 page reports, talking about the history of our soul. And we had done the tapping and earlier in other sessions and turn it around to this is just a story, and her face wasn't lighting up about it, right? Like, what do you mean this is just a story? This is my reality. And in giving her the history of her soul, she said, well, if it's just a story, how do I know this isn't just a story? Good point, right? And the answer is it's all just a story. It's all just a story. It's an interpretation. Reality is different for each individual. That's why you can have six people see an event occur, and each of those six people have a different perspective of it. They have a different view of what actually happened. This is in our everyday life. This is everything that we're doing. And so everything is just a story, in that choose the stories that serve you, choose the stories that empower you, choose the stories that empower others, choose the stories that warm your heart. We have a choice in every moment. And in talking about the shadow work, um, I you I had somebody comment on one of my posts on Facebook, and she has the same name. She saw her name come up, and she's like, I was triggered by seeing my name come up. That's because there's an underlying story. That's the shadow story that's coming up. And when you dive deep, when you look into that, like, oh, what emotions came up when I saw my name? What was it that triggered me? What sensation did I feel in my body? What was the story? What was the past story I instantly started telling about myself, or telling myself? And what is the future story I was telling about myself? And this is the shadow, in that it's unconscious, it's unseen. You just become aware of the trigger. And it takes some time and some practice to discover what led you to that trigger, right? This is the shadow work. So there's this unconscious story in there, like, who's talking about me? Are they talking bad about me? Should I be threatened? And then after, she shares in her comment on the post, is like, oh, how funny that I could be triggered, and it's probably not even about me. How many times does that happen? How many times do you not receive a text, not receive a phone call, or somebody reacts to you in a certain way, and we make it about us? That's the shadow. That's the shadow. And when we dive deep into that shadow, that aspect of ourselves that is dying to be seen, dying to be recognized, dying to be heard, right? She's just underneath there wanting to be seen and heard. And she has a message for you. And what happens is that those emotions come up, and it's uncomfortable. And so we just push it back down. We push it back down, and we miss the wisdom that is being hidden in that shadow aspect. So remember, my point in sharing this with you is it's all just a story, every bit of it. And the deeper you dig, the more stories you will find. And what happens is when you recognize that it's just a story, you can reframe that story. And your mind, your brain, doesn't actually know the difference on what the true story was or the new story that you replace it with. Your brain doesn't know the difference about that. So you actually rewire your brain when you go in and you do this shadow work and you start reframing those stories and tuning into them. I hope this supports you. I hope this supports you in telling better stories that give you greater joy, more love, and more peace. If you haven't already joined my free training for next Wednesday, Prelude to Making Light of Your Shadow, then hit the link in this post and join us. It's absolutely free. We will be recording it. So if you can't be live, you will receive the recording, but you have to register to receive the recording. All right, everyone, have an amazing day. I will see you tomorrow. And thanks for tuning in. Mwah. Bye for now.